Welcome back, everyone. Today we have a very special episode of Sholicast. We're going to be talking about mental health in the taboo fiction community. So I basically wrote up some slides about this topic, and we're going to be discussing them.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
So the first thing I want to go over here is that we're going to be talking about mental health topics related to taboo NSFW fiction. So if it's not your thing, feel free to skip the episode. We're still going to try to make it fun and compassionate and uplifting, because that's how we do it on Sholicast.
If you ever feel like you need like some kind of support or thinking about things or some of the topics we'll get into, we'll see what exactly we're going to talk about. But we really think that this episode is going to be helpful for a lot of you, not just in the Shota and Lolly community, but just any kind of taboo, not safe for work fiction stuff.
Yeah, and this was one of the most requested episodes. I think pretty much the most requested episode overall.
Yes, it was. Yep.
People were asking us to talk about this kind of thing, which is really understandable because not a lot of people talk about it.
No, not at all. And I think that's why we felt it was really needed to have an episode like this.
Yeah, and it's especially important for someone to be talking about this when they themselves are in the community and have had their own experiences in the community and dealing with stigma and stuff like that. Because Hydra and I have, of course, being creators of Shota and Lolly, we're gonna have those experiences. But like Hydra said, this goes for any kind of taboo fiction. We're not going to be singling out Shota and Lolly because we really shouldn't be doing that in the first place. We don't need to do that.
Yeah, that's right.
So the episode won't just be about Shota and Lolly. It's going to be about the general intersection of taboo fiction and mental health. As I said, there's no need to single out only Shota and Lolly in discussions like these. There's all sorts of different fetishes, sexualities, fantasies, or taboo genres, and all of them are equally fine in fiction. We're going to be focusing on the NSFW side of things, but the things we're going to say here don't just apply to sexual fantasies or fiction, but pretty much any kind of fantasy or fiction.
Yeah, that's right. That's the important distinction to make.
Yeah, that's right. Our sexual attractions are unchosen. No one chooses their fantasies, fetishes, sexual orientation, sexual attractions, sexual interests, or sexuality. That means that people don't choose who or what they are attracted to, both IRL and in fiction. Even though it's unchosen, a person's sexuality is not a defect, flaw, disorder, or moral failing. Two people can go through the same experience and still have very different sexualities from each other. I remember the other day I was talking to Hydro about that point.
Yeah, like I was talking about like the Lion King, for example, because the reason why I came up with the Lion King and Robin Hood is because it's like Robin Hood is like kind of the traditional anthro. It's like bipedal anthros, whereas the Lion King is like, like the four that they're on all fours.
Yeah.
Those movies, a lot of people have said that those movies, Robin Hood and Lion King, were like for people who either got into the furry community or were into that sort of stuff. Those were like the big activators or like the kind of the gateway for them.
For them or for a lot of people in the furry community, they might have watched movies like that or cartoons like that, and it might have led to the realization that they kind of like that art a lot, and even in an NSFW way. But someone else might watch those same movies and cartoons and like just enjoy them in a kind of general way, not particularly have any sexual thoughts about lions or fox girls or anything like that. Remember that scene in Lion King where it was Simba and I think her name is Nala?
Nala, yeah.
And they're rolling around and then the music was like, "Can you feel the love tonight?"
Yep.
And then Nala looks at Simba with like big fuck me eyes.
Oh yeah, like the bedroom eyes. Yeah, like that right there was like a super activator for a ton of people. Myself a little bit too. I mean, you can't deny that Nala was pretty sexy there. So
I really had the sense like they were going for something there. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, big time. Like you got to remember too that creators of these shows and movies and stuff, well, they're going to have their preferences too. And if they just so happen to be working on a movie where they get the ability to kind of depict something, that what I'm trying to say is there may have been intention there with them.
like the OG furries. All right, next point. Two people can go through the same experience and still end up having very different sexualities from each other, because people don't really choose how to respond to an experience, or at least in this vein of a sexuality, they don't choose how they have a sexual response in terms of like attractions or fetishes or fantasies or anything like that.
If I can think of an example for me, the Kama Sutra comic by Pandora's Box, which was like a straight Shota thing, and that was like one of the first ones I saw, and I just remember like I really felt like that I really enjoyed this particular comic, and like at the time I like didn't exactly know why, but I knew that it had to do with like the characters being like Shotas and it being like a MILF, and like that combo, because I didn't know about the term straight Shota at all back then, but I knew that was something I really, really liked, and I kept going back to it like over and over and over again.
Yeah. And, someone else might have seen the comic and like not really been into it.
Yeah, that's right.
Another point to make here is that a lot of times our sexuality or our fantasies or fetishes or whatnot we can start realizing them when we're very young. And another thing I want to point out is having a certain sexuality or certain fantasies doesn't mean you're evil, sick, dangerous, or can't control yourself. It can be any kind of sexuality or fetish or fantasies, anything. It doesn't mean that you're a bad person. It doesn't mean that you can't control yourself. You can act completely moral. You can be a completely moral person who doesn't abuse or harm anyone. It doesn't matter what the sexuality or fetish or fantasy is.
No, it doesn't.
Fiction, including taboo fiction, is a healthy and safe way for a person to engage with their sexuality, whatever it may be. Because when we enjoy taboo fiction or any kind of fiction, in the end, it's not going to hurt anyone. Like, anything can happen in the fiction, like literally anything, and it's not going to harm someone in real life. It's not going to cross over into real life like some weird, I don't know, paranormal situation or something.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, or like those. It's not going to be like Who Framed Roger Rabbit, right? where the cartoon fiction characters come into the real world and they tell you like how you abuse them or whatever. That's not gonna happen ever.
So fiction allows people to satisfy fantasies without bringing harm to themselves or others. This applies not only to sexual fantasies, but also fantasies involving violence.
One of the examples you have of that is like, for example, like if you were irritated at your boss or something, or like they were having a really bad day with them, and you just fantasized like beating them up or pushing them out the window or something.
Yeah. Also applies to fantasies that are not sexual and not violent. I was thinking about this the other day, and an example of that would be like for example, like street racing. Like maybe you wanted to experience the thrill of that, but obviously there's certain dangers involved with that, the street racing. But you can experience it in fiction. You can play a game doing that. I'm sure there's been some like, I don't know, like Need for Speed games maybe that are like that. Or are they usually like driving away from the police? I forgot.
I mean, it's kind of a mixture. You do street racing, you go away from the police, like that. Like Hot Pursuit was the one that was mostly about getting away from the police and stuff, if I recall correctly. I haven't played Need for Speed that much.
I remember playing a game called, I think it was called Driver. I remember playing it PlayStation 1.
Oh, I love Driver. Yeah, amazing.
I like the I guess it was like a free play mode or something like that, a lot more than story, because in the free play mode, I don't know if it's called that, but it was basically like you start and like you're immediately chased by a bunch of police cars.
That was my favorite mode.
Yes, and then like you could drive around, and like my favorite part was like when there's like little like hills on the road or something, and you could drive off of them and like be in midair, and then you'd also, when you do the replay of the session, you can see like the police cars like also chasing you in like midair, like drifting through the air and like crashing into the buildings, and it was so much fun.
That was my favorite mode, and I always do San Francisco all the time because that was the one that had all the crazy hills you could jump over.
Yeah.
What was super fun about it was you would, like, eventually the police would get so extreme that they would crash into you and you would go flying. I think they rubber banded them basically to become more difficult, and you just go flying down the road. They like basically shoot you off like a rocket. It was really funny.
Yeah, so with fantasies, when we enjoy them in fiction, and it can be any kind of fantasy, it just won't end up hurting anyone. We can have a good time without worrying about whether it's hurting someone or not, or hurting ourselves, of course. Because if I try to do the whole street racing thing or something, I'd be pretty worried about my physical well-being there.
Yes. Yep.
So what is taboo fiction? Taboo fiction is any kind of fiction that is especially stigmatized against. So what taboo fiction is considered can vary from society to society. In many societies, sexually related fiction can be more stigmatized than fiction that is not sexually related. Violent fiction, for example, can be seen as more okay or less adult than sexual fiction. And if you live in certain countries, you can probably know that well, that you have a greater access to violent fiction than you do sexual fiction.
Yes. Yep.
We don't personally have to agree that violent fiction is more okay than sexual fiction. We can also take into account that there's, in many societies, there can be a bias against sex and sexuality. And so that can influence why people might think in a society that sexual fiction is like worse or bad or whatever. So keep that in mind, that there's societal influences at play, and you know, it can differ from society to society. It's not like a universally human thing, because different countries or cultures or whatever will have different ideas as to what is okay or not to depict in fiction.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm also going to mention that taboo fiction, it does include the fantasies we have in our thoughts. So like that example of beating up your boss if you had a bad day at work or whatever, that would be an example of a taboo fantasy.
Yeah, that's right.
So we're going to go over some common taboo fiction. Fictional content that considered taboo include bathroom play like scat or pissing. And I love how we started with that one.
Well, it's because that one is heavily stigmatized.
It really is, because even like there'll be sites that allow other kinds of fetishes, or even more like the taboo fetishes, but still not allow the bathroom play stuff.
Yeah, that's right.
And one very famous example of taboo fiction is definitely incest. It technically includes step incest, or sexual relations between step relatives. I know Patreon considers it incest.
Yeah, they do.
The whole step thing. And so what ended up happening on Patreon is that games that that used to be incest, change it to being roommates or like landlady or landlord or whatever stuff. And so that's the kind of thing people do to get around it. But you know, that's a very good example of a taboo fiction, because it is banned by Patreon.
Like, in other words, Patreon essentially has a stigma against it.
Yes, if some kind of fiction has more limited ways to monetize it, then it's definitely highly likely to be taboo fiction.
Yeah, that's right.
Obviously, sexual depictions of shota, lolly, cub, or characters under 18 years of age would be taboo fiction. Also, age gap sexual relationships, sometimes even between adult characters. So that could be like a 25-year-old and a 50-year-old is sometimes stigmatized against in fiction.
Yes, it is. Yep.
Wearing of youthful or infantile dress, such as school uniforms or diapers. I know on Patreon, I'm sure there's been some creators who have avoided doing the school uniforms because they don't want Patreon to think, oh, like they're like high school age, or like they're still in high school, or what, are they under 18 or something, even if the character is canonically older than 18.
It makes me also think about how Steam doesn't allow NSFW games that look like they take place in a high school.
Yeah.
So like, in other words, if you give them a school uniform, there's a 50-50 chance that Steam may be like, no, we're not going to allow that game, even if they're 18 or older.
Yeah, that's right. They don't want like people to misconstrue a game as having underage characters because they're like in school uniforms or something.
Yeah, that's right.
Also, what can be taboo is sexual depictions of characters of smaller height or body parts, even if they're adult. That includes smaller breasts, smaller muscles, smaller hips, smaller butt, or smaller genitals. A big reason for that is probably because those characters can be seen as under 18. That's an obvious one, or being showed or a lolly or cub. But
Yep.
even a character that is canonically an adult or something, that might still get stigmatized if they're of a shorter stature or something along those lines. Violence is also another taboo category of fiction. Most of all, sexual violence or sadism, such as guro, which is sexual depictions of gore. Also, romantic or sexual interactions that include abuse or hate, such as relations between enemies. If there's a relationship where they're constantly hurling insults at each other. So you can probably find a lot of that on AO3.
Yep.
Bestiality or sexual depictions of animals or monsters. What's considered bestiality or animal can vary depending on the platform. Some places may moderate against furry art as bestiality, and so furry art can sometimes be considered taboo in practice. I know on Patreon it hasn't been very consistent.
No.
Some creators have been moderated against for their furry art, even though it wasn't feral art. Which, if you don't know, feral art is it's like furry art of characters that are like they're not anthros, so they're probably going to be like on four legs or
quadrupeds. Yeah.
Yes. So basically, they're not the bipedal anthros.
But even the bipedal anthros that like Patreon still is not very consistent on, which we've seen.
Yeah. So sometimes I've seen creators who have faced some kind of moderation against their anthro characters, even though they're bipedal and everything. So in practice, sometimes furry art can be considered taboo. Rape or non-con is a taboo fiction. Non-con includes hypnosis, mind control, coercion, or dubious consent. Some consensual BDSM fiction can be misconstrued as non-con.
That's another thing Patreon is very iffy on too. They don't even allow hypnosis or mind control or anything. And the BDSM thing is it's touch and go with Patreon. They don't always like it.
Yeah, that's why some creators they try to be very clear that when they do BDSM fiction, that all the people involved or the characters involved are consenting. Like I've definitely seen that before, where there'll be like a disclaimer at the start of like an animation or whatever, saying that all the characters are consenting. Role playing of taboo kinks, like such as incest role play, is a taboo fiction as well. So it could be, it could even be like two fictional characters that aren't related, but they're role playing as being related or something like that.
Yep.
So in some societies, taboo fiction can be fiction that includes homosexual relations, or even NSFW or porn in general can be taboo. So the core of what taboo fiction is it's something it's fiction that's especially stigmatized against. These days on many places on the internet, you're not going to have an issue depicting, homosexual stuff, but it's still considered taboo in some places.
Yeah, that's right.
And of course, some countries don't allow porn in general.
Yeah, that's right. And so, it goes to show that it can be it can be stigmatized in different ways, meaning it could be based on a location where it's just not where it's stigmatized, or a platform like Patreon, or maybe just some general, forum or website or something like that.
Yeah. So I want to highlight the importance of our lived experiences. Due to the stigma surrounding taboo fiction and the stigma against those who enjoy or create it, there isn't necessarily a lot of well-known good faith research and studies about the taboo fiction community as of right now. I think there are some, but it doesn't seem very well known because I've only heard of one of them, and I don't know a lot of information about it right now. But I think that this situation means that sharing our lived experiences and advocating for ourselves is even more important.
Yeah, that's right.
And even if there were a lot of good research or studies, sharing our perspectives would still be very important. And we in the community are the ultimate authority in how we feel and what we've experienced. All of the studies in the world and all of the outside opinions can't take away from that fact.
Yeah, because what's the most powerful experience? Your own personal experience. That's the one that should trump all others.
Yeah, so if we hear an outside opinion that's very ignorant about the community or the people in the community, just remember that we're the experts on the community. It's not outside people who have some kind of malicious opinion about us or some kind of negative agenda that they want to achieve. The experts are us.
Experts are us, yep, and by extension, like you and your own personal experiences.
Exactly. And so no one can like look at what you said you felt or experienced and tell you're wrong because they're not you. They haven't experienced what you've experienced.
Yeah, that's right.
So our lived experiences are very important. Consider changing how you conceptualize your interests. Do you think of your interests in taboo fiction as being immoral, sinful, or dark? You don't have to. I don't, and I never have.
And I haven't either. Neither of us have.
I mean, I started looking at Shonen Lolly from a pretty young age, and at no point, even going into adulthood, did I see it as some kind of bad, sinful thing, or like the dark side of me, or something like that.
Yeah, no.
I never conceptualized it at all like that. Not for Shonen Lolly, but not for anything else either. I haven't seen taboo fiction as being immoral or sinful or dark. I know some of the younger people in the community can kind of feel that way about their interest in taboo fiction. They might feel it's immoral or sinful or dark, but I feel like it's more of the environment they grew up in rather than something they really have to feel. You know what I mean? It's like,
oh, I definitely think that plays a big part because I mean, okay, like if you think about it, when we were younger and getting into this stuff, there wasn't any social media, or at least it was very, very small at the time. But I think aside from that, I never had like anybody like telling me that it was bad or immoral or sinful or dark. So like I like kind of, and I'm sure it was kind of the same thing with you or very similar, where or what happened was we already had kind of solidified ourselves with what we enjoyed, and nobody was going to change our mind about it or make us question it. You know what I mean? It's kind of like when you crystallize that feeling, you have a much stronger feeling about it, and anybody who tries to tell you otherwise, you're just like, nope, not going to listen to that.
Yeah, we didn't grow up with social media telling us certain kinds of taboo fiction was wrong or immoral to enjoy. We didn't grow up with that. So we always understood that fiction is fiction and that we didn't have to feel bad about it. And we think that if we can do it, so can you. You can unlearn, the sort of propaganda you see on social media sites or elsewhere on the internet telling you that you have to feel bad about what you enjoy in fiction, because that's a learned thing. You know what I mean? It's not something intrinsic, because we never experienced that.
Yeah, that's right. Or by the time we learned about it or heard about it, it was like I said, we already kind of we were already set in our ways. You know what I mean? Yeah.
By the time I had really started hearing about that, all the propaganda and all that stuff on social media, I was already an adult, and you were as well, Hydro. So you're absolutely right that by that time we had already solidified our opinions about that. It was something also that came about from our lived experiences, that we were enjoying that kind of fiction, and we knew from experience that there was nothing wrong with it. And at the end of the day, there's nothing inherently worse about enjoying something sexually compared to enjoying it in a non-sexual way. Like, honestly, like, what does it matter?
Well, and that's why it gets to that point. In the end, you aren't hurting anyone. How you enjoy something doesn't really matter.
Exactly. How you enjoy something is pretty immaterial if in the end no one's getting abused or taken advantage of or harmed. It really doesn't matter because like if no one's getting hurt, then it's all in your head essentially.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
And as we talked about before, some people internalize the societal bias against sex or taboo fiction and end up feeling bad about their interests in sex or sexual fiction as a result. It's not something that has to be permanent. You can unlearn that negative internalization, because at the end of the day, it's okay to have sexual feelings. It can be sexual feelings about really anything. It can be sexual feelings about Maid Marianne and the Robin Hood movie, which
there are a lot of people like that.
Okay. Here's a question: Do you think that they intentionally try to make Maid Marianne sexy?
I mean, they didn't want to design her to be ugly or unattractive. so I would say yes. Same with Nala. Though I think with Nala, like, what's funny about that scene that we were mentioning earlier is, like, okay, throughout the whole movie, Nala, now I don't know if you remember this, but remember how, like, Nala kind of has, like, well, you know how lions kind of have, like, that, I don't know what it is, but it's kind of like they have, like, this dark kind of lines, like, kind of along, like, their lips and their mouth.
Yeah.
What's funny is like, with Nala's character, that design kind of added to her sexiness during that scene, because it was makeup almost.
Oh yeah, didn't she also have some kind of color, like, along her eyes as well?
I think she did. She did. It was, I think it was just like her like, she almost had, like, eyelids, or not eyelashes, but, like, eyelids that almost looked like they had makeup on them. Yes. So
like eyeshadow or something.
Yeah.
She got dolled up for Simba.
So and I can't remember if Maid Marian also. Well, I think Maid Marian did have eyelashes. So I mean, that they definitely are making them attractive looking. Yes.
Oh yeah, eyelashes are like a classic way for like furry characters or I guess cartoons in general to be like, this character is sexy or this character is female.
Yeah.
To give him longer eyelashes.
Oh yeah, big time. Yep.
The funny thing is, I did watch those movies, like Lion King, as a kid, but I didn't fully realize it at the time that I liked furry art until I was more like an adult. It's kind of funny that happened, but for some people, like, it starts clicking, like, right away, even when they're young.
Yeah, it's like immediate. Yes. Yep. And one thing we really want to emphasize, like, on this last bullet point on this slide, is unlearning that negative internalization can be done, but it's not going to be something that will be instantaneous. And there are certain things you have to do, and which we will get to, that can help that along and can help speed it up, or at least help you able to kind of get rid of that negative internalization. There are ways to be able to do it.
A big one is definitely having friends who are either into the same stuff or okay with what you're into, because then you realize that, like, not everyone thinks this way. And if not everyone thinks that way, then why do you have to be that way yourself? You know what I mean?
And like, to go back on, like, what I was talking about, like, you know how we were saying that, like, your own personal experiences are how you're the ultimate authority on it. You could have an experience that you have as your own, but then you could meet somebody who had a very similar, if not the exact same kind of experience, and then you become friends with them, and because you share that experience, your friendship becomes stronger.
Yeah, and they might be able to tell you, like, how they've experienced things and how in the end they either unlearn that negative internalization or they never experienced that in the first place. And so it can be something that you can learn from other people as well. So it's a big reason why it's important to interact with the community and have friends and and network with people and just socialize with people, because you're not alone in this at all.
No, you're not.
There's tons of people who are like you. We're going to be talking about fantasies. Everyone has fantasies. So some might be sexual, some might be non-sexual. Like we were talking about before, maybe a fantasy you have is street racing. Some fantasies might not be okay to happen in real life, but it's still okay to have those fantasies. Because if in the end the fantasy never ends up happening in real life, then who cares? Because at that point, it's just a fantasy you have in your head. It's not happening in real life. No one's being hurt. being interested in taboo fiction doesn't mean that you have a fantasy of it happening in real life. And it doesn't mean that you're attracted to those kinds of people or beings or things or situations in real life either. If you are attracted or do have that fantasy in real life, it doesn't mean you're bad or dangerous, because having a fantasy isn't the same thing as wanting to happen in real life or trying to make it happen in real life. So even if you do have an IRL fantasy, it doesn't mean that you want it to happen in real life or you're trying to make it happen in real life. And there's real injustices in the world that we should pay more attention to, instead of like a harmless fantasy in someone's head.
Yes. that probably should be a big takeaway for for a lot of people.
Someone's kinky fan fiction on AO3 is pretty small potatoes compared to the other things going on in the world. In the same way, we don't want to be judged for our fantasies. We shouldn't judge others for their fantasies either. We shouldn't be doing the whole thing where we're in a glass house and throwing stones. We also don't want to make an environment where people are judged for the fantasies, because in a very practical sense, if we make that kind of environment where people are judged for the fantasies, then it might come back to you. Making that environment where people are judged, it means that you might end up being judged yourself, because that's the environment you made it. So that's why we shouldn't be making that kind of judgmental environment in the first place.
Yeah, that's right.
We'll be talking about past experiences and taboo fiction. Some people may have experienced something in the past that motivates them to seek out taboo fiction to satisfy their fantasies. Fantasies or taboo fiction may be necessary for their mental or sexual well-being. Taboo fiction lets them control what happens, which they might not have been able to in their past experience. They might reimagine what happened in a way that is better for their mental health. The past experience doesn't necessarily need to have been negative, traumatic, or sexually related, and you don't need to have experienced trauma or something bad in order for it to be okay to enjoy taboo fiction. You can enjoy taboo fiction for any reason or for no reason at all. It really doesn't matter. Yeah, one thing I want to highlight is that you don't need a reason. You don't need a justification. You don't need an excuse. You don't need anything at all to enjoy taboo fiction. You don't need a fucking license to like it.
Nope.
You don't need to justify it to anyone else. You don't need to depress yourself into thinking something bad happened to you because you like taboo fiction. So some people might think that you need to have experienced trauma or something else that was negative in your life to enjoy taboo fiction, but you really don't, because Hydro and I haven't experienced anything like that.
No.
And we still like certain taboo fiction.
Yep. And
we don't feel, as you said before, we don't feel bad about it, and we don't try to justify it to other people either. I've really never done that at all. I don't remember tripping over myself explaining why I like shoulder or lolly or whatever, or incest or whatever it is to someone else. Thankfully, because I think that would be very annoying to have to deal with.
It would also just be a waste of time. You don't need to explain yourself.
Just like how you don't have to explain yourself for liking a certain kind of video game genre, or liking Grand Theft Auto, or liking fighting games, or wherever it is. You don't need to explain yourself or have an excuse or even have a reason. It could just be that you fucking like it, and that's all it is to it. We as a society or the human species, we need to get past the stage of trying to put others down. Sometimes it feels like some people they try to look for anything to put someone else down, and that's what we need to get past.
That's right. And we do think we can get past it, but we're sure that we can.
Absolutely, because hopefully many of you listening know someone who isn't like that, who doesn't seek out reasons or excuses to put someone else down. And Hydra and I aren't like that either. So if a few of us are like that, or people who aren't negative and looking to put other people down, then the whole world can be like that.
Yep, that's right.
And every person who decides to stop condemning other people or putting them down, that all that stuff helps. Every bit helps. So we'll be talking about marginalized fantasies. Some people may have fantasies that are more marginalized than others. Sometimes it can be a fantasy about something IRL. We talked about before. It could be about beating up someone they dislike, like a boss or whatever it is. It could be about having sex with a cousin, or it could be anything else. Because it's fantasy, the content of the fantasy does not matter. And there aren't any exceptions to this rule. So there's no There's nothing that's like, well, this fantasy is okay, but this fantasy isn't. No, it's not like that.
Yeah, don't fantasize about this thing. Yeah, no, there's no exception to the rule.
And whatever the source or form of our sexual attractions or fantasies, none of us choose what they are. I definitely didn't choose what they are. I like women, and that's I didn't choose it, but I'm happy it turned out that way. and I also knew that from a pretty young age too, that I liked women.
Yeah.
And a lot of people do end up figuring themselves out pretty young. A person might find out later on in life too, and that's perfectly fine too. And having fantasies like these that are more marginalized doesn't mean a person is bad or sick. And the vast majority of people with marginalized fantasies, they're not in danger of conducting related abuse. We shouldn't think of people with fantasies different from ours as dangerous people unable to control themselves. Usage of violent and prejudiced rhetoric or language against them is counterproductive, as it may make them internalize that they are incapable of acting morally. We shouldn't be trying to convince people that they can't act morally. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Extremely. It doesn't matter who it is. We shouldn't be trying to convince them that they're monsters or they can't be good people. It's very counterproductive, because if we want people to act morally or nicely and treat each other well, it's better that other people believe that they can be moral people. And all that violent and prejudiced rhetoric against or language against people with marginalized fantasies, even besides what I just talked about, it does unjustly harm their physical and mental health. Just because they have certain fantasies, it doesn't mean that they should be receiving that kind of abuse. And as I just said, that kind of abuse is also very counterproductive.
Yeah, that's right. And because what ends up happening is like that in itself can become trauma. In fact, more often than not, it does. And that's why it's extremely counterproductive.
In the end, if we want to reduce the harm in the world and reduce the abuse in the world and reduce the trauma in the world, we need to treat other people well, even if they're different from us, even if they come from a different place or have different fantasies from us. We need to treat them well, and when we treat everyone well, the whole world benefits, and we benefit too.
Yeah, that's right.
Because we're making a world where everyone is being treated better, and that includes ourselves.
And that honestly improves just the world in general too. And it actually can end up leading down a path where it'll solve a lot of the different IRL world issues, or the issues in the world that are, troubling our society now.
Yeah.
A lot of it really just comes down to just people need to just treat each other better and not judge each other for being different.
Exactly. Like, I don't want to be treated differently for liking certain kinds of taboo fiction. So I'm not going to treat someone badly just because they have their liking of taboo fiction or their fantasies are different from mine, because that's not how it works. It's not. I shouldn't be seeking an exception to the rule. I should be treating everyone well, and it'll come back to me too, because I'm making a positive environment where I'm not being judged either. Now, when we're talking about how fiction prevents harm, fiction, including taboo fiction, is a safe and healthy way for people to explore and satisfy their sexual or romantic or emotional feelings, or any kind of feeling or desire or interest. This is not about any kind of particular fantasy, fetish, or sexuality. Fiction is safer than anything that you can do in real life. So this applies to non-sexual fantasies as well. And like we said, for example, the street racing, it's going to be way safer to do that in fiction than it is in real life.
Yep. And that's why, like you said, it's objectively safer. It's not a subjective thing. It's fiction is objectively safer than anything that can be done in real life.
Yeah. It's not an opinion. It's just fact.
Yeah, that's right.
In fiction, you can enjoy any kind of fantasy without bringing harm to yourself or others. So what that means is that fiction helps prevent harm. For this reason, banning certain kinds of fiction prevents access to something that prevents harm. Everyone should have access to any kind of fiction, whether it's necessary for them, or it's important to them, or just because they like it. Let's celebrate fiction as a way for us to be kinder both to each other and to ourselves.
The bullet point on banning certain kinds of fiction, it comes back to that whole counterproductive thing. It's like it's pointless to do that, because it's not like there is no harm in allowing every kind of fiction or allowing access to any kind of fiction.
That's right. Oh yeah, the other day I was thinking about this, and another example is like if you want to, for example, in fiction you can experience something like an orgy with 5 million people or something, and like every hole getting stuffed.
Yep.
In that fictional scenario, you don't have to worry about like STDs or unwanted pregnancies or whatever it is.
Yep, that's right.
Fiction is so powerful for preventing any kind of harm, even if it's not like intentional harm.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, it almost makes me wonder. I'm sure there are plenty of authors, artists, people out there that utilized fiction as a way to keep themselves away from harming themselves or others. And I'm convinced that that's helped out a lot of people.
Yeah, I'm sure, because there can be all sorts of like dangerous situations in a story or something. Like, you know, for example, like a murder mystery, for example. Those tons of novels like that, and all those are safer than being murdered. First of all, it's safer than investigating a murder, and, you know, safer than all of that stuff in real life.
Yeah, that's right.
So, you know, fiction prevents harm, period. So since we've gotten asked about this kind of thing, we're going to be talking about taboo fiction safety tips. This is not professional certified legal advice.
We know from, you know, either personal experiences or just understanding like things about the community, and that these are still very legitimate safety tips that we believe in it and we know work. But it's one of those things where we can't be like, oh well, you know, we're not lawyers and we're not, you know.
Yeah, it's just the obligatory disclaimer.
Yeah.
Here are some tips. Research laws and attitudes in your country or culture regarding art, NSFW, etc. Because, like, you know, we've been asked questions about like the legality side of things, but we can't like give it like a universal answer to that, because it really depends where you live.
Yeah, that's right.
And the same thing goes for like general attitudes in a person's country. It really depends on what the country is. So we can't give like something universal on that. When you're researching, for both accuracy of information and mental health, approach research with rationality rather than fear. Don't assume the worst. And I think that's very important, because sometimes when we're fearful, we can kind of invent things in our heads that aren't real, that don't actually reflect reality. And I know that could be a kind of an easy trap to fall into. But basically what I'm getting at is don't assume the worst, because like most of the time, it isn't actually the worst case scenario.
Yeah, and it's actually might be far from it.
That's right. Don't tell strangers what country you live in unless you're absolutely sure it's safe to do so. Don't use handles tied to your IRL identity to talk about taboo content. Research privacy tools such as VPNs, Tor, Matrix, etc. When researching VPNs, also research the specific VPN you're looking at.
For those of you who may not know what like Tor is or what Matrix is, which I'm assuming a lot of the people listening do know what these are, but essentially they're just ways to either hide your actual location or to kind of essentially they're like privacy enabled like programs or networking like tools. And some are very easy to use. Like I think a good VPN is Proton VPN, but you know, there might be other but there's plenty of other VPNs out there. There's tons of them.
Yeah. So do your research and find out what works for you. Don't use privacy tools for harmful ends. We want to use privacy tools for privacy and not to hurt anyone or abuse anyone or anything like that. It's ultimately up to you how to balance safety with your personal interests and sense of freedom. These are tips. It's still up to you how to conduct yourself online or wherever else. But as I said, just make sure you're not harmful or abusive or anything like that. So we're going to be going over some mental health tips. The first one we're going to be talking about is avoiding negativity, and I think this is very important.
Yeah, this is a big one.
Avoid drama, negative news, negative videos, negative sites, and negative people, both online and IRL, to the best of your ability. Much of that negativity has nothing to do with us. I'm sure many people, and I'm sure you as well, Hydro, have gone like a place like Twitter, and you know on the side it like has these trending tags or whatever, and it's like the latest call out, and like people being negative and yada yada, and like insulting each other and condemning each other and canceling each other and yada yada, and it has like nothing to do with us whatsoever.
Oh yeah. And it's and you and I have talked about this many times on YouTube as well. Like you'll just you'll be looking for something specific, and then when it gives recommended videos, you get some video that's just like such and such has messed up their lives or whatever. And thankfully on YouTube, for those of you who don't know this, not only can you say don't recommend this, but you can also basically tell YouTube don't show me this channel ever again. And that's what Dr. X and I frequently have to do.
Yeah, I don't want to see channels that are monetizing negativity and shedding on other people. I don't think that's good for the world.
No.
Because it incentivizes being negative and finding excuses to insult other people. You know what I mean? My real suggestion is to stop watching that kind of stuff, not only for your mental health, but to improve the world in general. Because it's better if being negative or harassing people doesn't make you money.
Yeah, that's right.
It's better if there's no financial interest in treating other people badly. And the negativity of the internet and other places, it doesn't enrich or benefit our lives. It doesn't benefit the world. It doesn't help us or the world to see insults, harassment, or hate. When you go on Twitter and you end up clicking on one of those negative hashtags and seeing all those people insulting each other, like, how does that benefit your life? It really doesn't.
No, it doesn't at all. Once you start to understand that or realize it more and more, you'll have a way to kind of like shield yourself against it, meaning you won't get roped into it.
Yeah, don't get roped into it, and especially considering how like there's like a financial side to it. Don't play into this whole thing where like being shitty to each other makes money.
Yeah, that's right.
Don't be a part of that. So just try to ignore that shit.
Yeah.
And also make sure to be kind to yourself. You don't have to shoulder all the weight of all the problems in the world. You don't have to be like doom scrolling on Twitter, learning about all the negative stuff that's going on, especially if it doesn't have anything to do with us. And avoiding unnecessary negativity doesn't mean you're ignorant of what is going on in the world. Honestly, chances are that you're gonna be finding stuff out anyways, even if you're not seeking it.
Yeah, that's right.
About like the latest, biggest thing in the world.
Yeah, I mean, it's impossible to avoid everything, of course, and we realize that.
And honestly, you can avoid a lot of the negative shit on the internet. You can, at least if you try, you can definitely mitigate it.
Oh yeah. Oh, definitely, yes.
Because I haven't been searching that. I don't know all the latest controversies about like who cheated on who or some other stupid shit like that.
Right.
And we should also pick our battles, because there might be all this stuff going on in the world, but it's better if you want to help things out, that we focus on areas that we can produce the greatest positive change. That's the most effective way of going about it, instead of doom scrolling on Twitter looking at all the negative stuff going on. If we want to help the world out, we can focus on areas that we think we can help the most out. And this is a very important tip, is to curate your inner experiences by avoiding negative sites, negative communities, and negative users. Use filters, mutes, and blocks on sites that allow you to use them.
And many sites do. Many sites do have that.
Yes. We realize that for work or networking or whatever it is, you might still have to use certain sites like Twitter, but try to use the tools available for you to curate your experience so that you're not experiencing things that really don't help you out in your life. And also, sometimes we might think a site is necessary for us to use, but it's really not.
Yeah, that's right.
I know from the taboo fiction side of things, Bragg's a pretty great place if you're like an artist or creator to go on instead of Twitter. And if you're still using Twitter, that's okay, but just think about that. And of course, like we just said, if you're using sites like Twitter, highly consider using tools like filters, mutes, and blocks. And when you manage your experience online using those tools, it doesn't mean you're weak. Honestly, it's actually very smart, and I use them as well. Even besides the whole, I don't want to see certain things. It's also very practical in the sense that it's not like getting in the way. You know what I mean? when you use a filter or a meter block, then whatever you didn't want to see doesn't get in the way of what you do want to see.
Yeah, like I mean, I've probably like utilized that YouTube thing of don't recommend me this channel dozens and dozens of times, and it's improved my YouTube experience a lot.
Absolutely.
Significantly. And I'll still get like annoying shit will still come up, but I just the only thing, this is an important safety tip, a little tidbit I can give you, is when you are searching for something on YouTube. First of all, the search experience sucks on YouTube to begin with, but anyway, when you search for something, I noticed that if you search for something, like let's say you're looking for, I don't know, like a video game footage or of the latest game or something, you'll get the videos you want, but as you scroll down, let's say you're looking for like a specific thing, like maybe a funny meme that you remember seeing and you can't find it and you keep scrolling down, you'll get those annoying clickbait negative things. But the only problem is for some reason on YouTube, when you search for something, you do not get the option to say, don't recommend this channel. Now, that was something I found out, Dr. X. That's kind of annoying.
I do wish they had an option where you could just like go to a channel and like just mute them from there.
Oh, I'd love that. That'd be so great. Yeah, that they need to add that. Yes.
But for now, what we'd really recommend is that if you see like a video being recommended on the side of the page and you really don't like what it is, or it's very mean or harsh or ignorant or whatever it is, that you click on, I think it's like the 3 dots or something.
Yeah, it is. Click
on that and then click on don't recommend channel, and then you won't be seeing that suggested on the side anymore.
Yeah, that's right.
And I've used that a lot, and it's been pretty effective. And I've done a don't recommend channel for like tons of like of the bigger channels that like thrive on negativity, and
yeah,
it really has improved things. And I'll just keep doing it if I see some other random new channel doing it. Try to avoid giving those channels clicks, and try to avoid adding to the problem of financial interest and negativity. And in the same way, also consider like giving the positive channels and positive videos clicks and supporting them instead.
Yep, giving them a thumbs up, subscribing to them. I mean, I've definitely subscribed to a ton of great channels that, not necessarily because they like say positive things, but more like because they enrich the things that I want to learn about, like music production or the things like that.
Yeah, and do try to find positive channels and videos as well, because I think it's important. Because imagine if we change the world where the financial interest is not being negative, but it's being positive. Imagine that.
Yeah, that would make a big difference. Yes. Yep.
Yeah. So we can create that world by just changing what we focus on. Those positive videos can be pretty entertaining themselves, because Hydra and I really like is watching like glitch videos, or like I think that might be our favorite, like watching funny video game
glitches and
people like fucking around with the game, like ridiculous mods and stuff like that. All that stuff is very fun, and it doesn't make you feel like shit watching it.
Or like watching like Oblivion videos of like just different funny glitches or weird mods that they do. Those are a lot of fun.
Yeah, so like I guess what I'm getting at here is that you can totally entertain yourself and have lots of fun by watching stuff that isn't negative and isn't like ignorant or abusive or harassment. And I know like those negative videos can be entertaining themselves in some kind of way, but it's not your only option for entertainment. So keep that in mind, like what kind of world you're helping create when you give a click to something. And we should try to be creating a more positive world. On that note, here's another tip. Seek and create positivity. So try to find sites that are more positive, especially if they're more friendly to taboo fiction. So as we talked about before, Brag would be a great example of that. I think there's also a site called Athey.
Athey's good.
There's other sites that allow taboo fiction. So, and we'll probably create an episode of Sholicast at some point going over different sites that you can go to.
Yeah.
If you want to find sites that are more friendly to taboo fiction, or make friends in the community and stuff like that. Try avoiding creating negative environments where people are called out, condemned, or insulted. And try creating positive environments by being kind to others and yourself. the positivity you put in the world will return back to you, and I can definitely attest to that.
Oh yeah.
The positive environments I've created, it's definitely made environments where I'm treated well myself.
Well, it goes to that point, the next point, which is when we are positive and kind, it draws positive and kind people to us, and that is definitely true.
Exactly, because positive and kind people, where do they want to go? They want to go to places that are positive and kind.
Yeah, that's right.
If you want to be treated with more kindness, if you want to be surrounded by people who are positive and kind, then make the kind of environment that those people are attracted to, which is a positive and kind environment. If you can, help others and the taboo fiction community. So create the world you want to see. A kinder, gentler world is possible, and it starts with us. And it really does, because every person that helps out, that's a big deal, and it adds up.
Yeah, that whole thing about like one person can make a difference. I mean, what it's really speaking to is that if one person can create a positive world, then another person will do it, and then another and another, and it keeps building.
Yeah, it's definitely like an inspirational sort of thing, where if you see someone else doing it, someone else being positive and kind and helping other people out, it encourages other people to do it. It might encourage you to do it. So we can start like a chain reaction. And that's part of what we're doing in Sholicast, is that we really want to improve things in the community. So we're doing our part for that. But you can too as well. And to do that, it can even just be a matter of treating other people in the community well. And it's not something that has to be very hard to do. And don't feel afraid to be compassionate to other people. If we can do it, then you can do it too.
Yep, that's right.
So here's another mental health tip, is to make friends in the community. Making friends in the taboo fiction community can improve your mental health and reduce or remove feelings of loneliness. Because if you're interacting with other people who are into the same stuff or are okay with the stuff that you're into, then that's really going to tear away at the illusion that you're alone. You're definitely not alone, because there's tons of us who like taboo fiction. Tons and tons and tons.
Yeah, that's right. That's why it might be the most single and most important thing you can do for your mental health as an enjoyer of taboo fiction, and that is really true.
That's right. None of us are alone in liking taboo fiction, and when we interact with other people like us, especially if we become friends, we're reminded of that. When we look for friends, we should prioritize people who are positive, kind, and okay with all kinds of taboo fiction, not just some. We want to prioritize people who are okay with all kinds of taboo fiction, because you don't want that kind of situation where like you let someone know that you're into this specific kind of taboo fiction, and they're not okay with that. So we want to make friends with people who are tolerant and open-minded and kind and compassionate. And if we do that, that's the kind of experience we're going to have, like a compassionate, open-minded, and tolerant experience.
Yeah, that's right.
Me and Hydra's lives have been changed in a hugely positive way by making friends in the community, and that can happen to you too. You can really improve your life that way and have a happier life. It's definitely been that way for me, because being involved in the community has made me the happiest I've ever been in my entire life. It's been a total revolution for my life. Yeah,
that's same with me. And of course, I became extremely close friends with Dr. X, and that was another huge part of me being happier and being, enjoying life much more in the best I've ever felt. And then that led to creating a huge community and us meeting more people and making more friends, and it's awesome.
Ending up making Sholicast as well.
Ended up making Sholicast, that's right.
All of that was a chain of events by me becoming friends with Hydro, and how that started is me reaching out to someone who was also into taboo fiction.
Yep, that's exactly what it was. That's literally what it was.
Seriously, consider reaching out to people in the community and trying to make friends with them, or even just interact with them. And if they try to reach out to you, consider
replying. You don't have to go crazy. You can just say hello, or just respond and say something nice or whatever, and you never know, it can really lead to some great friendships, sometimes ones that will last for a lifetime. You really don't know until you actually reach out or respond to somebody who might message you. It all starts that way.
Yeah. And a friendship that lasts a lifetime is definitely mean hydro, that's for sure.
Oh, yeah. Yep. That's right. Yep. We already know.
Yep. And yeah, like you don't have to make friends with everyone, but just open your heart to the possibility. Just open your mind and heart to the possibility, because it can really change your life in an amazing, positive way.
You don't have to be a if you're an introvert, which many of us are. We're not saying that you have to make like a million friends, or if you just find one good friend, that can make all the difference.
Absolutely, it can make a hugely positive change in your life. So the next mental health tip is don't pretend to be against taboo fiction.
Yeah, we can't emphasize this one enough.
Most of the time, you can avoid saying anything about taboo fiction, so don't feel pressured to pretend to be against it.
Yeah, that's right.
Maybe the topic comes up in your IRL friend circle. I think most of the time you really can avoid saying anything about it or saying anything negative about it. And when you pretend to be against it, it hurts the community and may also negatively impact your mental health, because you're like essentially arguing against the kind of person you are. And you're hurting other people in the community. So just try to get away from the fear where like you feel like you have to be negative against your own kind of community and yourself. So like maybe a little tip is that if it comes up in your friend group and maybe they're against taboo fiction, you can just try to change the subject, or maybe say you're not comfortable talking about it. And of course, like ideally you argue against their points. Right, not necessarily arguing, but maybe bring up a different perspective on it. But if you don't feel comfortable doing that, then you could just try to have the conversation move forward, so you're no longer talking about that. And in that way, you can avoid, hurting yourself and other people in the community.
Yeah, that's right.
Thankfully, I've never been in this kind of situation where I've pretended to be against taboo fiction. Even when I'm talking to my IRL friends, you can even talk about it without like saying that you like it, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's right.
I think what I've said before is that like I think I pretty much told them like it doesn't hurt anyone, it's not real, blah blah blah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's probably one of the, if you were put in a position where you had to say something, that's honestly probably the best response you can give.
Also consider, like, I know we don't necessarily always have tons of room to maneuver away from certain friend groups or communities or whatever it is. But first of all, consider not getting into those communities that are against taboo fiction in the first place. Because, you don't want to be in that kind of situation where you're hearing other people might be kind of close to you or in the same community arguing against taboo fiction. And if you currently are in the community like that or friend group like that, consider maybe drawing back if you can and finding a new friend group.
It's all about going back to like avoiding the negativity and instead shifting over to the positive communities and the positive friend groups.
Absolutely, because you don't want to be in a place where you're afraid, you know what I mean? Afraid of saying something that they don't like.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, at that point, is it really a friend group?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's exactly right.
So here's the next mental health tip is to listen to Sholicast.
That's a shameless plug.
Totally not biased, but we did make Sholicast to help the community. We've had some amazing guests and amazing talks from and about the community on Sholicast.
We really have. Yeah, we've had some awesome stuff, and we're going to continue to have a lot of great guests and a lot of great talks like this.
Yep. When we listen to people who like the same things we do and experience the same things we have, it reminds us that we're very much not alone. And I know we've gotten comments about Sholicast to that effect, that they said that they felt less alone listening to Sholicast. Hydra and I wanted Sholicast to feel like what we feel in our hearts. We're compassionate and unashamed to be who we are. So that's the kind of vibe we want with Sholicast, is that feeling of compassion, and where we're not ashamed to be who we are, or like taboo fiction or any kind of other interest or fetish or fantasy or whatever it is, where we can be open with each other and be non-judgmental. And with some effort, everyone can feel the same way, where they're not ashamed to be who they are. And we're in this for the long haul, so expect Sholicast for years and years to come, because we have plenty of ideas, and I'm sure plenty more guests that we're going to be having a lot of fun.
Yeah, and because we have seen that, just like we thought that Sholicast is helping the community, well, then that just is inspiring us to just keep going and going, because we want to see the community improve more and more through Sholicast, and also just seeing the community help each other as well and grow and become more positive.
Absolutely.
And to that point, the community does have amazing people.
Yep. Like, we have to give like huge props to the people in the community. I've met like the nicest people in my entire life in this community.
I have too. Yep.
The courage people have to be in this community, despite all the possible stigmas, is so inspirational. We all know about like all the stigmas and stuff, and all the shit we've gotten, but we're still here, and we're still going to be here, and we're not going to go away. And despite everything we've had to go through, we've not only gotten this far, but we're growing more and more every day, and that's important. We're not getting smaller, we're getting bigger. Our love for different kinds of stories and art is such a human thing. That's never going to go away either. It's been there for the entirety of human history.
Pretty much. Yeah, that's right. Thousands of years.
That's not something that you can extinguish.
Nope.
It's always going to be there. Everything we face together. So let's help each other in this bright future we have ahead of us. And to that point, how can you help? So here are a few tips. If you like a creator's work, leave a nice comment for them. If you have the means, you can consider supporting them through commissions or sites like Fanbox or Subscribestar. Sharing and recommending the works with others who might be interested also helps the creator. You can also help out by making friends and connections with each other. Help out new people in the community. Support people and organizations that are in favor of art freedom. If you are able, you can voice your opinions in favor of art freedom yourself. And when you do so, make sure to focus on positivity rather than putting down people who disagree with you.
Yeah, that's right. Yep.
Like we talked about before, we want to be creating positive environments. And it also, in a very practical sense, it makes us look better if we're positive people when we argue in favor of art freedom and fiction freedom. And, you can help out the community by taking care of yourself too. Be kind to yourself, because you're an important part of the community. And don't ever forget that.
Yeah, you always want to remember that you yourself are a part of this community, and you're just as important, and you can make a big difference. That's what's so cool about this community, is we've met so many great people, and we've seen that when the community comes together, it becomes more and more enjoyable, and it becomes also a much better place for where other people will join the community, and then things just become more positive from there.
Exactly. All right, so that's the mental health episode of Sholicast. We sure went through a lot of stuff.
Well, we appreciate if you watched if you listened to us all the way through and you watched everything. Well, that's great. We really appreciate it, because we know it was a lot of stuff to cover. But like Dr. X said in the beginning, this was the most requested topic for an episode that we had received by far. It was the most, and we feel very proud that we created it. And well, Dr. X mostly wrote a lot of it, but we both were very motivated to create this episode together. We're going to be continuing to do this kind of stuff where we want to talk about these sorts of things, and we want to grow the community. We want to make the community more positive, and also to go back on like the whole taboo fiction thing. We want people to feel. We want you, who may be listening right now, to realize that your taboo fiction that you enjoy is nothing to be ashamed of at all. It should be something that you should enjoy and embrace, because that's part of you. It's what you enjoy.
Exactly. And there's nothing wrong with that.